It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Rene, Andy, and Lory are all here. We're going to find out how Morse code helped Genius catch Google red-handed. Are there new MacBooks on the way? And Foxconn says we can make all the iPhones somewhere else. It's coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 666, recorded Tuesday, June 18th, 2019, when the Flyback carbons out. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Roman. Skip the waiting room and awkward face-to-face. Get ED medication conveniently delivered to your door in discreet, unmarked packaging. For a free online visit, go to getroman.com/MacBreak. And by Atlassian. Atlassian software powers the full spectrum of collaboration between IT teams and the rest of your organization. Visit Atlassian.com/teams/IT to see what IT could be by giving their products a try for free. And by Clear. Clear uses your eyes and fingertips instead of traditional ID documents to get you through security faster at airports and stadiums. For your first 2 months free, visit clearme.com/MacBreak and enter the promo code MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. MacBreak Assemble, iMore.com's Rene Ritchie is in the house. Hello, Rene.
Leo, I've been waiting for you to say MacBreak Assemble since the first show.
We're all together now in the Marvel comic universe.
Leo just picked up Mjolnir and went right to business.
Thank you for being here, Rene. Always a pleasure. From the Vector Podcast. Also from iMore, the lovely and talented Lory Gill.
Hello, hello. Rene and I are the Wonder Twin Powers. Unite!
Unite! She's managing
Form of water.
And what would Andy be? What superpower would Andy have?
Well, let me just say this. You're mistaken. I'm not trapped in this podcast with you. You are all trapped in this podcast
He's
with
obviously Batman. He's not Rorschach. He wants to be Rorschach, but he's Batman.
We were all laughing before the show about the Morse code. What is it? It's the Morse code for red-handed.
Yep.
Explain, Rene.
All right, so Google has been providing lyrics for a while now. Google does this thing that they believe is helpful and that a lot of content providers believe is predatory, where they take the best answer and they provide it for you right on the Google page so you don't have to click through. And it's true when you're searching, if it just pops up there, it's great. But for publishers, it's better if you actually click through and go to the publisher's website. And Google was doing this for lyrics, and the company Genius, which has painstakingly put together lyrics from all these songs, started thinking, I wonder where Google is getting those from, but they couldn't prove anything. So what they did was pure genius. They took the ampersands or the apostrophes, and they made straight ones and curved ones throughout every song. And when you put them together, they spelled out the Morse code for red-handed. And then lo and behold, Google started reflecting these in their search results, thereby letting Genius say they caught them red-handed.
Oh, my God. So map makers have done this for centuries, put fake streets or fake landmarks in their maps because apparently there's a brisk business in stealing map data. This is incredible. So the patterns, I don't understand, though. I mean, these apostrophes go with the text. How does that? I mean, wouldn't you have to put an apostrophe there and there and there and there?
Yeah, but it's straight versus curved. And when you read out the straight versus curved one, it's dashes and dots.
Smart quotes versus curly quotes.
Oh,
yeah.
my God, that's brilliant. Holy cow. And here's an animation that will make it all clear. Straight apostrophe, curly. This is PC Magazine, but this is Genius's video. Yeah. So right here in this lyric, the red ones are smart apostrophes.
Yeah.
They really should have done a deep fake video of Peter Falk as Columbo in the last act of it.
Look at this. So they busted him
how you're going to
red-handed. Now notice at the bottom of the Google listing it says lyrics copyright. Oh man, that is wicked genius.
Yeah, that's
what does
pretty
Google
genius,
say?
Google, the last I heard, Google was saying it's the fault of a Canadian company that they licensed them from, and the Canadian company
Canada
was stealing them from. But you figure if there's any company that can sort of do due diligence and deduplicate the results of lyrics, they know if we put up duplicative content on 2 websites, there's no way they're not going to know that every single lyric in your match is genius.
The company
but it does.
that did this, Lyric Find, disputes the allegations. Lyric Find says, we have a whole content team devoted to compiling song lyrics from numerous sources, which can include getting them directly from the artist and songwriter, as well as other websites. Other websites. Some time ago, Ben Gross from Genius noted, this is a quote from Lyric Find. Some time ago, Ben Gross from Genius notified Lyric Find they believed they were seeing Genius lyrics in Lyric Find's database. As a courtesy to Genius, our content team was instructed not to consult Genius as a source. They recently raised the issue again, provided a few examples. All of those examples were also available. Here's the problem. On other lyric sites and services, raising the possibility our team unknowingly sourced Genius lyrics from the location. This is the problem. Genius is so good that other sites scrape Genius. Google scrapes the other sites red-handed.
Information
scrapers all the way down.
Scrapers all the way down. This actually is a big deal for Google because, of course, they're accused of this kind of thing, and they're in big trouble in Europe with it. Yeah. And I think this is something Google really doesn't. This is bad timing.
It's easy to dismiss this as saying it's like.
Go ahead, Rene.
Sorry. I was going to say it's easy to dismiss this as saying it's just, it's an accident, but Google has a history of doing things like scanning a bunch of books, which makes the Authors Guild really unhappy. And that ultimately, I believe it was decided that Google has the right to scan all these books for index and accessibility. But how do you separate that from just making them available via search? And it's this huge complex tension between indexing all the world's information and not necessarily having the rights to all the information you're indexing. I don't know how you solve it, but it feels like Google's a big enough, rich enough company that it could license a lot of the stuff and thereby neatly avoid having to scrape most of it.
Well, Google says we license lyric contents from music publishers, the rightful owner of lyrics, and from Lyric Find. So
I think part of the problem is that it's like you were talking about before, where you buy and license these catalogs of data of information. But this catalog, it wasn't just some scholar working laboriously for 2 years to produce it all on his or her own. This is like a big stew, a big soup of stuff that's had things dumped into it, and it must be. If I'm going to give Google the benefit of the doubt, which I do just for the sake of argument, it's possible that they thought that, okay, well, here we're licensing this database. This should be perfectly fine, not knowing that whoever built this database incorporated stuff from other sources. But like Rene said, although that's a nice devil's argument to make, they have this isn't some fly-by-night organization. They have the resources to just let's compile a list of the 10 biggest sources of lyrics on the internet, and let's just compare the data that we've quote licensed unquote against that data. So you don't above a certain size, you just don't get that excuse anymore. So I hope they write a big check to Genius, because Genius it's genius. It's one of those resources that has been necessary on the internet for ages, and they do it so well.
To be fair, I don't know if they still do it. For years, Genius was crowdsourced lyrics.
Yeah.
So it's not like honestly, Genius took them from us.
Well, no, that's crowdsourcing. That's me deciding that I've had it with I would happily crowdsource every single map that says that, oh, here you are this picture was taken in the middle of Boston Commons. And I will happily donate my time to fix every one of those. Say there is no place in Boston called Boston Commons. Right. There is a place called Boston Common that's been around since the 1600s. That maybe over the past 400 years you could get the name right. So this is it's great when this crowdsourced data becomes literally public data, when the public has decided, just like Wikipedia, there is no one team of person that can amass all this data, but there is probably one person who knows so much about the character Dazzler from Marvel Comics that they can write an entire piece and keep it up to date. And they're willing to do that so that anytime anybody wants to know what the deal is with Dazzler, isn't just this really stupid 70s Disney's disco character. Okay, well, first of all, disco is just one facet of Allison's personality and her talent, you know.
So Genius themselves on their About page says the Genius community has grown into an influential force of over 2 million contributors, editors, and musicians who sign up to discuss and deconstruct their favorite songs. So admittedly,
Miranda has been annotated.
Yeah, but admittedly, Genius collated it. But this is, I think, this kind of points to a larger issue: the problem with intellectual property rights in the digital age. It becomes
also just consent. Like maybe I'm happy to be on Genius, but I don't like Google or I don't like Facebook or I don't like Apple. You know, and I just want them where I said I want to put them.
Yeah.
It is a really good topic. And I'm glad that Rene brought up the library project of scanning books, where I feel as though this is Google being a really good observer of what it can and can't do. At the time, there wasn't any rules against it because it was such an esoteric, impossible to do at any time before they started doing it. And it was never a question of we're going to be taking all this copyrighted material and just simply publishing it. We just want to make it findable so that if you wrote a book in 1988 that's still in print, that maybe someone will see that, oh, the information I'm looking for is in this book. I use it all the time in my little research project. I have shelves full of books I've bought simply because Google Book Search told me that here is one paragraph that at least shows you the context of where we found this in, to say nothing of all of the stuff that's in the public domain that would be just dead and lost if not for the fact that Google goes through every single library that they strike a deal with, and if the copyright has expired, it suddenly becomes available to everybody. So I think that they are definitely doing something for the greater good there. However, it is something where they could not have done it had they gone hat in hand and asked, please, sir, we promise we're not going to do anything fishy with this. We're just going to teach the little children, the little nippers. It's sometimes you do. I don't like Facebook's version of move fast, break things, but sometimes when something is not specifically illegal, but it seems like a good thing, you kind of got to go ahead and let the courts sort it out later. Although this is not the Genius thing. That's their content, and someone was really naughty.
Remember how much trouble Google got in with the publishers who did not like that book scanning thing. They lost in court, but Google won.
They won-ish. Anyway, that's another topic. Yeah. The thing that benefits people, again, getting access to public domain stuff that was just a book in a library, plus the ability to search stuff that's in copyright.
But again, I would say this is really an issue with intellectual property rights in a digital age. It really becomes very, very complicated and difficult. And I don't know if the laws and the courts have kept up. This is another case.
What Google should do is just license from Genius. Just fix that mistake. Just fire Lyric Find and hire Genius.
Write a check to Genius. Although it may not be possible. I wonder if Genius deals with its contributors, 2 million contributors, as Andy pointed out. Maybe that precludes that. Maybe they say, we promise we'll never let Google have this. I don't know. But you're right. A check would help. And God knows Google.
Even just a direct link to the site where it was originally sourced makes, solves that problem because, the website just wants people to visit them. They don't want to tell Google stop using our lyrics. They just want Google to tell people where they got the lyrics. And that was done wrong. So, the original company, Lyric Find, they're the ones who seems to have not properly, identified where they were getting their sources.
I think that
there's also a small problem with sorry.
No. It's okay, Rene.
Oh, sorry. With the truncation versus in the original, and Lory knows this as well as I do, but Google would start putting those snippets on top of web search results. And if they put a snippet that was truncated, man, was that a traffic bonanza because everybody would click through to get the rest of that article, the rest of those instructions, the rest of whatever you were writing about. But then they started doing full excerpts that had no truncation, and then nobody clicked through, and that same article went from tons and tons of views to none. And it's nice that they're making it more convenient, but that if that's your income or your livelihood, it just destroys it at the same time. And it'd be nice if Google sort of recognized that, yes, we can make it all apparent, but if people want more, they should really click through to support the site.
I think that's probably why there isn't a deal with Rap Genius and that's really Rap Genius's problems is Google's if I do a search for a Taylor Swift lyric, I get the whole lyric from Google. I don't have to go anywhere else. That's
should give you the first third. and then have you click through.
And Google does that, of course, with snippets, and that's where they're in trouble in Europe with the use of snippets in their search results. Publishers now saying Google should pay us for snippets. But if Google said, well, instead of paying, how about we don't list you at all? Those publishers would lose a significant amount of traffic. So it's very challenging. I'm looking here at no point, and maybe this is Taylor Swift lyric. Now maybe they did get this from Lyric Find, and maybe they did get it from. Actually, what was the one that the lyrics that they showed in their demo video? Do you remember? Because that would be the one. That would be the one to look at and see if Google does give a link back. On the Taylor Swift, they actually give credit to the music publisher, as if they got it from the music publisher.
It's Not Today by Alessia Cara.
Okay. Let's see. Not Today lyrics. I don't know if that's it. Let's see. Cara. Yeah, here it is by Alessia Cara. And let me expand it, because here's the full link. By the way, the next link is the Genius page, but at no point here does it say Genius. And I'm just seeing if it still has the smart quotes. No, they're gone. But that's an easy grep. I'm sure. Yeah, that's the first thing Google did is say all smart quotes, replace them with standard. But it's interesting. See, if you're right, if they said courtesy wrap Genius, would that drive traffic to Genius? I don't know.
Or no, if they just gave a partial,
just do the first verse, and then say second verse, same as the first.
It's also kind of interesting it's a debate, the problem between information and content, where if I tell you the box score of the Red Sox game last night, that's just information. Whereas if I write up a synopsis, even just not terribly creative, just a synopsis of what went on, that is something that I originally created. So I think a lot of what Google does is there information or is this content? If this is a statistic about the height of a mountain, we can certainly pull out that one thing because they're looking for that answer. But to Renee's point, that is sometimes what people want is, I want to find out, how do I reset my my Apple AirPods so that I can pair it with a new device? And it would be much, given that iMore puts so much time and effort to coming up with a really good detailed rundown on how to do this with videos, with explanations. Yes, you can summarize it as step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. But pulling that out of an iMore article has got to make iMore feel minused and stolen from.
So in a side story, Pandora's being sued. They use Lyric Find for lyrics when you play Pandora music. The music publishing company for Tom Petty, Rage Against the Machine, and Weezer is suing Pandora, saying they don't have a license to show the lyrics. They just settled a big lawsuit against Spotify for the same thing. Now, this is actually an Apple story, because Apple has announced at WWDC that they would start showing lyrics, right, in iTunes when you play a song back.
Yeah, I wonder who they're licensing from, how they're doing that. Hopefully it's not Lyric Find, because that's going to be a real problem.
Given Apple's relationships with the labels.
Always had lyrics. It's just these are in time with the music now is the big breakthrough. So you can get your karaoke. Lory and I can get our karaoke on.
Yes.
So that's an interesting question. Somebody in the chat room saying they think that Apple does get their lyrics from Genius.
Yeah. I think, in reality, what we're talking about is the people that own the lyrics are either the record producers or the songwriters originally.
Not Genius.
Not Genius, not Lyric Find.
Yeah.
So,
how does Alessia Cara feel about this, right?
Yeah. And it's, once it's out in the open, you can't stop people from writing down the lyric. I mean, I literally used to do that as a kid. Would whip out a piece of paper and listen to my tapes and try to get the words and then, memorize the lyrics from it. So, you can't stop people from doing that. But at the same time, there is that weird sort of, who does own, like, how do you own the right to share this information publicly? Do you have to get a license from a record producer or a songwriter, or since it's sort of open information that anybody could find themselves, is it okay to just put up these lyrics and let people sing along to it? When does it become that point where, like, for example, using a karaoke style way of presenting the lyrics, does that suddenly become something that people could monetize and profit from, in that case, then is that a point where the original song maker or the record company that owns the lyrics, should they then get some sort of financial backup for it? Or it does get a little weird when you start thinking about who originally owned those lyrics.
So Apple, when they announced
genius.
the lyrics thing, last year, said it's from Genius.
Yeah.
Now, Amazon's Echo Show has done this since it was released. When you listen to a song on the Echo Show, it does karaoke style follow the bouncing ball lyrics. So, boy, what a mess. What a tangled web we have woven here. I don't know. I'm looking to see if there's information about where Amazon gets its lyrics. I don't see it anywhere. But, if you're not licensing it from the publisher, I think that's a problem. You should get it from the publisher.
And let's remember the problem of crowdsourced lyrics is that you get what the crowd thinks the lyrics are. Right. You don't get what the original creator thinks it is.
Stephen Colbert thinks that they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And all his listeners go.
So the creator might have a stake in saying, look, I know that I just basically mumbled nonsense, but they're all English words that I chose. I want to make sure that the nonsense is transcribed correctly.
They call those mondegreens. You know that probably.
My favorite Pepperidge Farm cookie. I wish they. I can't eat just 3 of them. It has to be the entire section of the entire bag.
If you look it up on Wikipedia, it comes from American writer Sylvia Wright, who coined the term in 1954, writing that as a girl she misheard the lyric and laid him on the green in a Scottish ballad as "and Lady Mondegreen." and there's quite a few of these, I'm sure.
Inagata Davida.
Yeah. Gladly the Cross-Eyed Bear. Remember him? Or there's a bathroom on the right. Or my favorite from Jimi Hendrix, excuse me while I kiss this guy. Those are all mondegreens.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza. There's a lot of I saw Elton John's live a couple of months ago, and there's a lot of lyrics. I don't know. Rocket Man.
I still don't know.
Early in the morning, late in the honey hole.
Yep.
I don't think
really just can't get through those. Nirvana's another one.
I only recently discovered that the title of that song from Chicago is 25 or 624.
24, yes.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Now I've got to look up Rocket Man. And I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh, no. And I think it's going to be a long until touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man. I think I knew that one. But there's some lines in there that I just.
It's burning till the something are there and gone.
Yeah, Bernie Taupin. And this, of course, comes from Google. Look, Google now put data from Lyric Find.
Interesting.
So maybe they're starting to cop to the and then if this got smart apostrophes, it's not our fault. Check with Lyric Find. You know that there were a lot of grep scripts replacing smart quotes.
Oh yeah,
flying across the internet.
BB Edit got to work out that night.
Yeah, that's right. Let's take a little break. There is actually a lot of Apple news, including, I think Ming-Chi Kuo has another rumor, and I wasn't going to credit it until it seems maybe there is going to be a 16-inch MacBook Pro. Could it be?
Dum, dum, dum.
Dum, dum. Story coming up. Both those stories coming up in just a second. But first, a word from our sponsor. And Lory Gill, you can cover your ears because this is for the guys in the audience. We're terrible. We're taught this, right? You get hurt on the baseball field, rub some dirt in it, right? We don't go to the doctor. We take care of our health by rubbing dirt in it, in effect, whether it's a knee injury, a bad back, or something worse. The last thing, in fact, that's why men who have wives or spouses or significant others are in better health, because the significant other says, go to the doctor now. I don't want to go to the doctor. Go to the doctor now. Well, the same thing happens for ED. And I bet you there are a few spouses, a few significant others who are saying, dude, you got to do something about it. 70%, according to studies, 70% of guys who experience ED, and guys of all ages from all walks of life experience it from time to time, don't get treated for it. Roman is the answer. Roman created a simple, secure, private way to get checked out by an actual doctor in your state, board certified from your state, and get treated online for ED. It's a one-stop shop. You can chat with a licensed U.S. physician who can treat it and will check, of course, all the other conditions to make sure it's safe and appropriate. Once approved, this medication is shipped right to your door in, as they used to say, a plain brown wrapper. Actually, I don't know if it's brown, but it is plain. With Roman, there are no waiting rooms, no awkward face-to-face conversations, no uncomfortable trips to the drugstore. I'd like to get a price check on this ED medicine over here. You can handle everything discreetly online. All you have to do is visit GetRoman, GetRoman.com/MacBreak. The online visit is quick. It's easy. You'll chat with a doctor licensed in your state. If the doctor says, yes, it's safe and appropriate, they will ship genuine medication right to your door, discreet, unmarked packaging. So don't rub some dirt into it, because you know what? It doesn't work. You're not going to walk around with a toothache. You'd go to a dentist. So if ED has been a problem in your life, go to Roman. With Roman, it's easy and fast. GetRoman.com/MacBreak. We're going to even make this better for you, because if you go to GetRoman.com/MacBreak, they'll waive the online fee for the doctor's visit, and they'll offer free 2-day delivery. Relief by Friday. GetRoman.com/MacBreak for a free online visit. GetRoman.com/MacBreak. And we do that ad as a public service to all the significant others out there. We're going, you did what? I'm dirting it? What? So Apple might have dropped a little hint about a new MacBook. Not a 16-inch MacBook Pro, but there are 7 model numbers designated by Apple as portable. They do this. This happens from time to time when they file with the FCC, or in this case, it's the EEC, the Eurasian Economic Commission. A21417, 2158559, 7982, and that's a lot of model numbers. 7 new model numbers. Probably not.
We need all the new Airs. We need all the new 12. I mean, the 12 inches are still on Kaby Lake. I think we need Coffee Lake, if not Coffee Lake refresh for the MacBook Airs. The Mac Mini still needs its Coffee Lake or Coffee Lake refresh. They have a bunch of computers they announced last October that should get updates this year.
What about the MacBook Escape?
I think that was Apple could not make an updated MacBook Air. They just could not make a Retina MacBook Air. They tried for years, and Intel was just not giving them the silicon they needed to make the machine they wanted to make. And so I think as like a desperation / holdover move, they made the MacBook Escape, and they tried to pitch it as, everyone who loves the MacBook Air, we think you'll love this stripped down version.
We call it Escape because it doesn't have a touch bar and it has an actual escape key.
And some people loved it for that, but it's my understanding is it wasn't the most popular of the MacBook Pros. Yeah. And so when Apple could make a MacBook Air, sort of all the impetus behind the MacBook Pro Escape.
I love my MacBook Air, and Lisa loves her MacBook Nothing.
Yeah.
I would love, and that hasn't been updated for a couple of years. That would be really nice to see updates on both of those. Although, didn't the MacBook Air is not even a year old yet?
October. Right? Yeah, they came out in October, but these could come out in October again. Like we don't know when these will come out.
Is there?
And the update doesn't mean a complete design change. It could just mean that they're getting new processor chips, which is kind of the way things are going now.
Yeah. This is completely fantasizing, but Chris Welch in The Verge said it sure would be nice if they made MacBooks with LTE. Given that they've buried the hatchet with Qualcomm, maybe that's possible. I don't know.
Well, they had opportunities to do that a long time ago, and they haven't. I feel as though that they think that our LTE chip is your tethered iPhone nearby.
Yeah, and it does that so transparently and easily. Why not? Yeah.
And macOS, like there's no evidence that macOS has been given any sort of LTE awareness. Like when you think about everything an iPhone doesn't do when it's connected to a cellular network compared to a Wi-Fi network, and some of the costs that incur when you just tether all the time. Like I've seen my bill go up and up and up and up because macOS is just doing all sorts of stuff that it wants to do when it's online. And until we see Apple sort of build out the not just power efficiency, which they'd need for LTE, but the data efficiency, I think that would be our big clue that Apple's getting ready. Yeah,
an API for metered connections. Yeah, the number of times where, like, oh look, you shot 630 pictures while you were away for the weekend. Great, thank you for tethering to your phone now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the idea of the LTE experience on a laptop computer I don't think that's right now. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. It seems like we'd be expecting our laptops to do more than they do.
I use LTE in my laptop all the time, and I use it.
I think Windows is aware, right?
Yeah, and more to the point, my iPad. There's LTE in my iPad Pro. I mean, yes, I have an iPhone.
It manages the hell out of that connection, though. Like it does network coalescence, and it does all sorts of things to make sure you use the least amount of data possible when you're connected.
Right.
I have to say that when I got rid of my iPad data plan because it was just I realized how many people I was paying for mobile data, and it was fine, but I really do miss the idea of a device where you turn it on and it has internet, as opposed to you turn it on, you make sure that your hotspot is turned on, you make sure that's connected. That's if Apple did decide to create a model that had LTE built in, I would be so up for that.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're waiting for 5G. I know this is the other rumor. Before I go to that, though, Ming-Chi Kuo, in his Digitimes report, oh, no, I'm sorry. He's not Digitimes anymore. He has a new TF International Securities. A few months ago said a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which did not materialize. Is that because that would have been a redesign and none of the new MacBook Pros are redesigns?
That's the next. My understanding is that's the next one. Like their cadence is like 3 to 4 years. Yep. And what they did now is they got in. I mean, they get in trouble for doing anything, but they were getting in trouble for not updating when Intel did. And for some people, they just always want the fastest chips when they want them. Like, Alex Lindsay, for example. Yeah. And those people they wanted the new Vega cards when they came out. They wanted Coffee Lake refresh. And so Apple's doing that. When a new chip is out and Intel has the specific version that Apple needs ready, Apple's going to push those out. But then it has the new design cycles coming as well.
So what would that cycle be? When would that be? Would it be this year?
2020.
It could be.
2016 was the
2016
first
was the last
huge
one.
redesign.
Next year?
So I think we're ready.
Okay.
October, March.
I think a small bezel, 16-inch and a 15-inch body would be very desirable, especially
new keyboard, escape key, inverted T arrows.
Yeah, if Apple finally gives up and gives us
Nintendo D-pad.
Yeah. So the other rumor from Ming-Chi Kuo and his TF International Securities is that there will be 3 iPhones. This actually does match up with rumors we've heard before. All OLED, no more LCDs, at least not in the new models. A 5.4-inch and a 6.7-inch high-end, and then an XR equivalent with a 6.1-inch, but this time with OLED. And this was the surprise to me. The high-ends will have a 5G capability built in. I thought we weren't going to see 5G this year.
Oh, no, these are 2020 iPhones, though, Leo.
Oh, never mind. I don't know what year it is. So
we're 2 years ahead in rumors now.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, screw it. I don't want to read 2020 rumors. Okay, I get it now. All right. Never mind.
You're living in the future, Leo.
I should.
We're living in a time where Google leaks their own Pixel 4, Leo.
Yeah, like, that wild? You think Apple would ever do that?
I don't think they would have done it before.
They're not already doing that?
Yeah.
Well, that was the question when we talked about that earlier on the Twit on Sunday. The chat room said, well, Apple does it. They just don't do it officially. They tell the Wall Street Journal. Do you think Apple does that, Lory?
They don't do designs.
You never know. Like we're supposed to believe that these are all just, insider sources that let this come out. But you just don't know. You can't trust these big companies to be like, uh-oh, my accidental picture of my,
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be that they legitimately are trying to hide this stuff, but we are talking about Apple right now because they keep everything a secret and then suddenly things leak. And it helps them by letting us get excited about these like leaks that happen. So if they have somebody on the back end or like they've hired somebody to, just make sure some information gets leaked out, I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Yeah, that's why I think that overall, everybody, of course, us included, need to be very, very aware of how on point the PR game is. Apple particularly, but every single other large tech company, that it really, I don't think it was an accident that Project Titan got quote leaked unquote at a time when Apple was also getting interviews of their highest executives on the cover of mainstream magazines. I think that this was a time it was an opportune time for everybody to start talking about Apple. I think it was a time where it was if Apple felt as though the information was going to get out at some point, let's time it so that we can take full advantage of it. And that's why I've really lost my taste for talking about rumors, because if we found out about a rumor, are we actually playing a game that Apple has set up for us?
That's a good point. I don't want to fall prey to that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm still pretty much okay with getting hardware early and signing an NDA saying you're not going to write about it until such a point, because I do think that at the time when people are considering whether to hit that buy button, it's nice that they get reviews that are based on a week's worth or 2 weeks of hands-on real-world experience, as opposed to 5 minutes in a demo room. However, once again, I think everyone who reads about tech reviews should understand that there is a negotiation and there is a deal that's being made. As long as people are informed, I don't think it's a problem. But I do think that we have to make sure that a free and independent press requires transparency at all steps.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that are unique. I mean, like Google, this wasn't like Google's Twitter account tweeted that picture. It wasn't like EV leaks or OnLeaks or.
Well, it was leaked originally by one of, I don't know who it was, but somebody.
Unbox Therapy had what looked like a CNC milled mock-up of what casemakers were going to be based on.
And OnLeaks had the renders, but I mean, like this, it wasn't like at Apple tweeted out any pictures of the new iPhone.
No, but then made by Google did. Actually, I thought it was genius because they didn't show anything. They had added no information. They didn't show the face. They didn't show the bottom. All they did was show the camera bump, and they basically confirmed it. I think that's smart, and it keeps its cycles going, keeps people interested.
Apple typically won't leak. Apple will sometimes talk to someone like Andy or me or the Wall Street Journal and say, we're only talking about software at WWDC. And you'll say, like, do you want to talk about hardware too? We're only talking about software. That means no hardware. We're only talking about software. Like, they'll do stuff like that. But they are petrified about the Osborne effect. Like, all these leaks you see is deleterious to Apple selling current generation phones. And they get lividly angry. And you can hear Tim Cook sometimes or Steve Jobs talk about how the rumors hurt their quarter-to-quarter business. So like they don't even let the PR team, never mind the PR team not leaking like designs, they don't even get to see them. They get angry to the point that the marketing team won't give it to them. So I think there's I think one of the indicators here is that Google didn't have anything left to give for the Osborne effect when it came to the Pixel 4.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever.
It was interesting though. In addition to the cameras, you also see that normally on the back of a Pixel phone there is a fingerprint scanner, and there is no finger. There doesn't seem to be one on the back of this phone. You see it from top to bottom, which allows people to speculate that maybe they're using their own version of Face ID, or maybe they've put Touch ID like inside the screen, which is something that no one has really managed to crack satisfactorily yet, but it's the Osborne effect is a real thing, and I've also talked to executives that get really upset about it. As in, this is a career limiting thing. If you decided to even mention at a party to somebody that something is in the works. However, phones are a different thing. There's it's not a question of would Apple still ship a new iPhone in September if a meteor were to strike campus. It would be a question of, well, how big a meteor are we talking about? How big would it be so that they would fail to ship something in September? So it's not, Apple certainly can't make the case that, we don't want people to know that we're shipping, so there's going to be a new phone in September. Anybody who really cares about this sort of stuff, even consumers, knows that if they drop their phone in the toilet in August, let's not go right out and replace it. Let's wait to see what happens in a month or two. However, there are people that are just, I broke my phone, let's get a new one today. They don't care.
If they cratered, like, remember BlackBerry was super paranoid back in the day, and then eventually it's like, please come look at an undisclosed BlackBerry that we might sell next year.
Exactly. Like I saw their new multi-touch platform like 2 years before they actually shipped it, and it was like nothing like what they actually shipped, or excuse me, nothing like what they showed me a year later. So yeah, this is what you can do when you know that you've got several $100 billion in the bank. You don't need to be quite as nice and open to the press or the public as you once were.
Apple Store design changes. Now, I don't know if this is making too big a deal out of this. 9to5Mac says new Apple Store design changes prioritize a straightforward shopping experience. And as an example, they use this mat that's sitting under the iPhones that has very clear pricing and features. That's something new, huh? This is from San Francisco.
Michael Stiebel is really good at watching Apple retail.
Yeah. So I think that this is a nice feature. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I could see it's the kind of thing that Steve Jobs or Angela Arendt might have said, "Oh, that's ugly, all that fine print on our nice, clean table." But
it's really not about the price. It's about the emotions that we can instill.
Well, they used to have iPads, right? Like there'd be an iPad next to every table that would tell you everything about it, but it became a single point of congestion, I think.
Rene will like this. The Apple Watch tables have been redesigned to streamline the process of exploring and trying on watch bands. I think Rene doesn't really need to do that. He just orders them, right?
You just buy them, Leo. Why do you try them? You just buy them.
It's true.
There's a sunken display cabinet with LED lighting and rows of watches that you can't touch. They're under a glass panel. But then there's another table with leather mats for trying them on, which is there you go. So you can see the watches and the
jewelry looking thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of like going to a fancy jewelry store. But you could see the issue this was raised because you could easily pocket that watch. It doesn't. Oh,
I'm sure they don't leave those out. Well, actually, those are just left out.
They look like they're sitting out.
No, part of the magic of Apple, and I mean this seriously, not as a joke, from the corporate campus to the stores, is that you don't see the beefy linebacker type guys in the black polo shirts until they are very much needed. And in which case, then you find out exactly how much you are being watched in the parking lot, how much you're being watched in the store. I'm sure they have a plan for this.
I'm looking for somebody. I don't see him. But yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, there's cameras on you. But I think this is actually a great thing because you now have a standalone watch you could try the different bands with. That's
a more interactive experience, I think, for sure. People who either have never even bought an Apple Watch can actually put one on their wrist easily. They don't have to wait around for somebody to come talk to them. Or if you have one of those 3 colors, you can say, well, what does this watch band look with this, with this case, and what does that look like on my wrist?
This was Lisa and I went into the Apple Store some months ago because she doesn't like bands that bother her wrist, and she was concerned. She didn't like the sport band because she felt like the edges bothered her. So I said, well, I think you'd like the Velcro. I'm sorry, the hook and loops. And she said, well, I want to try them first. And this would make it much easier to do. It was not easy to do it in the old stands. So.
That's also very, very savvy in terms of dealing with humans. Some of the humans, they really don't like having to talk to strangers, even in a retail environment. If they can simply play with a phone and see, okay, that's $5.99, that's less expensive than I thought, or if they can try on a watch without having to have a conversation, but saying, how about that one? Can you take that out of the box for me? It's just another case of greasing the rails from entering the store to making a purchase.
So the new display mats for the phones were spotted at the Apple San Francisco store. It may be that this new watch stand, which is currently only at the Apple Park Visitor Center, might be something that's Visitor Center only because of the security concerns. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's one more change that they write about at 9to5Mac, which is easels popping up at some stores across the U.S. and Canada, denoting an express checkout zone to pay for accessories.
That's got to be for people who are confused when they walk through the door as to who to talk to buy something.
Well, also, if you just want to buy a cheap cable, it's kind of an elaborate process. You don't want to have to go through the same process it would be to buy a $3,000 laptop. So having a quick checkout for accessories is not a bad. I think that's a very.
I think they hoped that we would all do that ourselves, and it never really panned out. Like, remember, there was like several waves of self-checkout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They never seemed to catch on.
if you're not just like a regular in the at the Apple store, you're going to walk in that door. If you just want to buy a case for your phone or a cable, you're going to walk in that door and have no idea how to pay for this thing that you just pulled off the shelf. And a nice, easel with a stanchion. It looked like they had those rope and stanchion over there.
Yeah.
To sort of direct those people. This is where you go if you just want to pay for this thing real quick. The staff there are doing the same thing they've always done. It's just now there's a place for people who don't really understand that sort of free Apple purchase thing to go to and not be confused and angry. And, that is something that I've heard about when people, just on the Twitters and stuff like that. Well, like Apple stores are really dumb. You figure out who to talk to pay for anything. That makes that easier for people who are confused about where to go next.
Honhai Precision Industry Company, a.k.a. Foxconn, says, if we had to, we could make all the U.S. Apple iPhones outside of mainland China.
Sorry, Canada.
Yeah, you're out of luck, Canada, but we could do the U.S. phones. This is, of course, due to the trade war raging between the U.S. and China right now. A senior executive at Honhai, which I didn't know this. Foxconn is a Taiwanese company. They just use Chinese factories to make the phones. Said that they have enough capacity to make all the iPhones bound for the U.S. outside of China, if necessary. 25% of our production capacity is outside of China. We can help Apple respond to its needs in the U.S. market. See, you would still get them in Canada from China because you're not in a trade war.
Well, I don't know, Leo. We're not in their best graces anymore after.
Okay.
After that arrest.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Huawei CFO was arrested in Canada.
Yeah.
On a U.S. warrant. Thanks, America.
Thanks, America. And then they arrested a Canadian in Beijing. So,
yeah.
Apple has not given Honhai instructions to move production out of China, according to this article in Bloomberg, but it could, according to customer needs. The company will respond swiftly and rely on localized manufacture in response to the trade war, just as it foresaw the need to build a base in the U.S. state of Wisconsin 2 years ago. The need was, President Trump saying they ought to, and the billions of dollars the state offered them. As far as I know, no facility has been begun in Wisconsin. But
it's certainly possible that they bought it to hedge their bets.
Yes.
It's such a volatile situation in China right now, where the government is really gone from whatever their 5-step plan is. They've definitely gone from step X to step X plus 1. In terms of surveillance, in terms of the government's relationship to the citizenry, in terms of how they deal with other countries, I wouldn't be surprised. I believe that there are a number of companies that do have that sort of red 3-ring binder on a shelf somewhere, saying that what happens if we have to get out of China completely? Do we have a plan? How long would it take for us to move our manufacturing to Korea? How long would it take for us to get our offices closed there? And is it a good idea for us to invest part of our future in expanding the Chinese market, knowing that the government has so many controls over how a company has to operate in there, that there might suddenly be a change in 2022 that negates our entire business plan.
Right.
So I do think that I do think that it's a little bit weird that of course they leapt at all this investment that the government, the Wisconsin government paid for, that's taxpayers paid for, that got diverted from other social services and programs. However, it is a really weird situation in dealing with China these days.
We do have drawings of the proposed Foxconn million-square-foot Foxconn plant. Beautiful images of the plant, which they say
Neil
weirdly.
Patel at The Verge keeps tilting at this story and never finds anything
There's
either.
never they actually had to submit this to the Planning Commission in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin. So it
looks like one of those party stores that used to be a Circuit City. They're not following anybody.
Doesn't it? I don't know why it says high-tech carrier out front, but it does. Foxconn says that the facility, which was originally going to do high-end LCD displays, now is intended to do all kinds of LCDs, servers, networking products, and thank goodness, automotive central controls. So that's the plan anyway. I think you're right. They could probably repurpose it to iPhones if they had to, if they were required to. Let's see. Are you going to buy a Mac Pro? I never asked you, Rene. We're going to, by the way, very exciting programming note. Alex Lindsay will join the panel next week because we know he's going to buy a Mac Pro.
The question is he going to buy a 6-pack or a dozen?
But we have wanted to hear what Alex has to say about the newly designed Mac Pro. But I don't remember, Rene. Are you going to get permission from the boss to pick one up?
So it's no. There's no way. There's no way. I'm like, if I buy this, I'm gonna have to buy this myself.
I told him no.
And that's like, yeah. And that's a debate like I have inside my head because like, would I buy it and then would I buy the real cheap one, knowing that it's just a real cheap one and it wouldn't do everything I wanted? Would I get the sweet like 12-core version, but then the extra cost that comes with? And then it's the same conversation I'm sure you're gonna have, Leo. It's just like,
yeah, you and I spent thousands of dollars on the iMac Pro because we felt like, well, we have to have this. But now that I have a 10-core iMac Pro, I just don't see the justification. I want it.
But it's new and shiny, right? It's new and shiny.
Very shiny.
It's so shiny.
I really want it, but of course I have no reason to buy it. Maybe I could... Hey, Karsten, do the editors need this?
No, but the producers do.
Producers don't get it. Producers get my old laptop when I'm through with it.
Maybe Lisa.
Leo, I'm concerned about the lack of bandwidth on the Mac that I have in the office used for streaming. I just want to make sure that the viewers.
There you go.
Why don't you do what like is always the smartest thing to do whenever Apple comes up with a great new design? Wait 6 to 8 months, then go to AliExpress.com, buy for like $80 an enclosure that looks exactly like this, the new Mac Pro, and then put like an Intel NUC in it or something.
Yeah. Running Linux. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the full Ubuntu, not the Linux Mint.
Oh no,
because of the
no.
superpower.
Yeah, I get all that power. No Exubuntu for me, man. Cellebrite says, don't get all excited about the privacy in your iPhone. Cellebrite, the Israeli company that is famous for unlocking phones, says, oh, yeah, now we don't have any proof of this, but they tweeted, Cellebrite is proud to introduce UFED Premium, an exclusive solution for law enforcement to unlock and extract data from all iOS and high-end Android devices. So they're not too worried about iOS locking them out. I don't know if, the problem is these companies always boast about it, but they don't give you a demo. So I don't know.
As a science writer friend of mine often says, Maggie Kurth Baker, she's really wonderful. I stole a line from her. He's all the time. Interesting if true.
Interesting if true. Very good. Yep.
Every time there's some sort of news.
Well, that's right, because 13 would probably block every way they have of getting in, but Cellebrite is saying all the way up to 12.3.
Yeah. And then it'll be a cat and mouse game over 13.
I was kind of under the assumption that there's a lot of companies out there, especially kind of funded by the government they're all doing that. They're all getting to that point where they can crack into phones and stuff. But what's weird about this particular one is they're sort of publicly bragging about it. It's not something that they're kind of keeping behind, away from the public eye, but just only talking to police or governments about it. But they're saying, guess what? Everybody in the public world, your phone is not protected anymore. And the government and the police are going to be able to access it. That's the thing that seems a little like, ooh. I mean, I assumed it was happening, but being sort of bragging about it is the part that's like just different to me.
It also feels like throwing down the gauntlet to Apple, right? Fix this.
Well, this isn't the NSA. They are advertising for sales and services. So I wouldn't be surprised. And also, this is kind of like the boasting they did the last time, where they said that it doesn't even matter what happens. We can just anytime we can introduce USB into this, we can actually get this cracked. And it turned out to be maybe true. Not really, but depends on how it's configured. Depends on what update that someone has. Although it's once again, Lory is I'm sure absolutely right that there are always people and governments that have the ability to get into a phone. And this is why I really wish that Apple would at least put like a little light gray asterisk on a white background when they say that our privacy is absolute and total and secure, because that's not going to be the case.
Let's take a little break. More to come. Andy Ihnatko from Boston Public Radio, WGBH. He's in the library again today. But I love it how you're mixing up your backdrops, so it's always a new.
The thing, see, again, there's a lake behind, a pond behind me. There's like birds flitting in about. Yeah. It's like I think it makes a nice change of pace from my paper screen that I put up, because so you don't see how horrible my actual writing table is. I feel like
Jerry Seinfeld might creep up behind you and from the bushes and knock on the window. I don't know why.
Or Kramer.
We should do it like the Today Show, where like the windows of the world, like, the crowd can hold up.
Yeah.
Hey, it's my grandma's 100th birthday, or
Also, Lory Gill is here of the fabulous band Sickburn, that's your top credit, managing editor at iMore. Always a pleasure, Lory. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Rene Ritchie, Lory's employee at iMore.com.
She runs iMore, and Vector has almost no budget, so I gotta be on my toes.
Yeah, Vector, the podcast. That's the place to see the.
I get to decide on that just with very little funding.
Yes, yeah, you get all the budget, all $10 a month.
Yep.
iMore.com/Vector. Our show today. Go ahead.
There's so many advantages to having Lory on the show. Part of it is that sort of like back talk between like, of course I do this thing for no budget whatsoever, all I want was one new computer.
I didn't miss that subtweet between the two of you, by the way. I didn't miss that. I saw it.
No, Lory's got she's got I don't know, a dozen people she's got to make sure they're doing stuff with. I don't envy that sort of Grand Central dispatch that she has to go through every day.
Well, we're just thrilled to have her on.
He didn't take the bait. I was trying to stir some stuff up and get our audience up, but oh well.
I'm getting my Mac Pro, Lory.
It's mine, all mine.
Yeah, go to your room. No, I said go to your room.
No, there's no way we're buying it, because we don't know yet what it'll cost in September, but no way you want the base model. So it's if you get that in the monitor, it's $12,000 out the door for the base model.
Right.
It's going to be.
But then I can replace the base. Yeah, I know.
That's an awful lot of money.
Rene, I think you need a timeout. Maybe I should assign you to the Bluetooth speaker beat for the next 3 months.
Oh, God. That would be punishment. Our show today brought to you by Atlassian. Actually, it's brought to you by our fabulous IT team. They're brought to you by Atlassian, the collaboration software that powers IT teams all around the world. Everybody, I think, knows about Atlassian's Jira, which is a fantastic tool, but I think people think it's just for developers. It's the company behind the tool that Agile uses, but no, Atlassian's really more about collaboration than anything else. Jira and all the Atlassian tools are not just for developers. They help power IT teams all over the world, because IT, is the center of almost all modern businesses. Certainly ours, but any business. If you're in the cloud, if you deliver content as we do, or products using the internet, you've got to have an IT team that can plan and execute faster than ever. Applications are more complex than ever, so are configurations. Incidents require open, agile, and smart cooperation between ops and software development teams. The expectations are high, the stakes are high, and it's IT at the center. Falling short of business-critical workflows is just not an option. That's why Atlassian is such an important tool for us. Atlassian's tools are designed to manage complex collaboration, and in every possible team of all sizes, from DevOps to Agile to IT apps to Ops to ITSM, and whatever's next for your organization, you can plan, service, and support the kind of change that propels the business. We use Jira to keep track of projects, who's responsible, who's doing it, what stage the project's in. But also for me, very important is documentation, and that's where Confluence is fabulous. It's been our goal for years to get everybody, our IT teams, to keep track of everything they do, to document it, so when then somebody else, comes in to take a job, Alex just left, Jeff's new, it's nice that he can go to Confluence and see what's going on, how things work. If you've got a code base, you need Bitbucket. With Ops Genie and Status Page, your team can better detect incidents, coordinate response efforts to resolve issues faster, and to keep customers and stakeholders up to date. That's important. I'm a stakeholder. The boss is a stakeholder. I want to know what's going on. Your team can choose the tool that's right for your current framework and trust. Look at all those Atlassian apps that as you grow, Atlassian will have something just for you, and it can grow with you. And, of course, because it all integrates seamlessly, you don't have to ever leave any program. You don't have to bounce from platform to platform, and teams like that, too. It's efficient. It gets the job done. The tool for your IT team is easy and free to try. Go to Atlassian.com/teams/IT and find out which Atlassian offering is right for your team. Atlassian.com/teams/IT. Atlassian makes tools for the future of IT and the present, too. We thank them for their support, for helping our team work more efficiently, more effectively. And we encourage you to visit them. Support us by going to Atlassian.com/teams/IT. Are you using the beta of iOS 13? Anybody here? I can't wait for the public beta. What do you think?
Loving it.
I don't recommend it.
You don't recommend it, and Lory loves it.
I mean, it's great, but I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, but it's not like last year. There was so much effort put into just optimizing everything. It was part of the big messaging. It was the flagship #1 feature. It was going to run so much better on everything, and that beta was really solid from the first day of WWDC on. This is not that. So I would strenuously recommend people wait for the public beta, but the features themselves are really, really cool.
When is the public beta? Is it next month?
They said July.
The only wording we got.
Sometime.
They said next month.
Yeah, I can't wait to put it on my iPad Pro. Slowly, as people use the developer beta, we're getting new information about tips that Apple did not talk about at WWDC. This is from from Mac Rumors. New Wi-Fi options in the control center. This has always been a pet peeve of mine, is that I open the control center and I want to long press on my Wi-Fi to get to the settings, but now you can. You couldn't before. It would just turn it off, which was not what I was looking for. Same thing with Bluetooth. A long press or a force touch on the Bluetooth icon will give you paired devices and then a quick jump to the Bluetooth settings if you want. Locations access is getting scaled back in iOS 13, but there's also a new option that says the app, I think this is brilliant, will have to ask every time. Now, you may not want that, but this is a kind of more refined between never allow access, only allow when using the app. Actually, did they get rid of always allow? I don't see that here.
Yeah, because there's just there's APIs for apps that really need, like for turn-by-turn directions, that really need to have constant background access, but almost every app really only needs it when it's active.
So this is a privacy control, absolutely. And
the best thing about it, and I'm sure that's in the Mac Rumors list, is if an app has been using a location in the background, I think we might have talked about this, it pops up not just a request, but a map showing every point on the map that it's recorded your location, so that you can make a very visual, very educated decision about it.
Yeah, that's what we need. Because honestly, I don't like all the pop-ups. I just usually say, yeah, let it have it. I don't care. Yeah. But it would be nice to know what it's keeping track of. Absolutely. There's now a new switch.
And also remind you.
Yes. Yeah.
Also to remind you, if you're not really using an app anymore, oh, that's right. I tested this out. I didn't like it.
Right.
And it's still collecting all this data on me. I should go shut that off.
Yep. Here's a switch to ignore blocked senders in email. So email now has kind of the same features you've had in your phone and contacts. Yeah. You can mute threads. Look at that mute button. I like that. You can set a reading goal in iBooks. The Books app has a reading goal feature that keeps track of how long you've read every day. I want to do that. I like that idea. I'm trying to build up the amount of minutes I spend reading every day.
I just wish it was additive to your day and not subtract. Like if you could just add that extra time to every day.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Not have to spend it.
Well, that's what audiobooks are for, right? That's what audiobooks are.
Yeah.
Silence unknown callers. This is a really good solution for robocalls. I presume when they say unknown callers, it's not callers without caller ID, but it's callers that are not in your contact list. I would hope it's that, because all spam calls have caller ID. It's just spurious. Be nice to say, hey, if that person's not in my contact list, I don't want it. Don't ring the phone. Just send them straight to voicemail. Yeah. There's a low data mode that lets you reduce your network data use if you get down to the last few megabytes of your data plan. Message search. People have been asking me for this for a long time.
So good.
So what's different in message search?
I mean, it works.
Oh, that's a big change.
So like today I was I work with a bunch of different people, and there's like the version of Lory for Windows Central is Al, and Al was asking me a question, and I knew that Lory and I had talked about it in iMessage and that we'd mentioned our overall boss, Kevin. So I just typed in Kevin, chose the Lory thread, went right to that message. I read exactly what I needed. I pasted it in and it was good. That's really huge. That's the kind of thing programs like Slack really make their name on, and stuff like that. That the theory is that these conversations we have in messages are permanent, and we want to be able to access them because they're a resource. So there's some that you want to delete immediately, if not sooner, and others that you want to keep forever. And the ones that you want to keep forever should be available to you rapidly when you want them. Exactly.
Yeah, there's, you went over to a friend's house a year ago, and they gave you their address, and you've chatted with them for the last year, and then you go back over to their house, and you're like, oh, now I have to ask them again for their address. Up to the top of the page. I do that a lot.
And then it reloads, puts you at the bottom again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There'll be folder management built into Notes, including renaming and moving the folders. That's great. They mentioned Xbox and PS4 controllers. Here's how you manage it. You'll be able to. That's nice that they're going to feature it. New Animoji. Look. There's a mouse, a squid, and a cow. New Memoji.
So cute, so creepy. Yep.
Actually, I'm sorry. That's not a squid. It's an octopus. If you just count the arms, Leo, you'd know. Well, wait a minute. There's only 6 arms.
Yeah.
There's a couple hidden ones in there.
Okay. Yeah. Separate emoji and globe keys. So in the past, you've had to scroll, go through if you have a bunch of keyboards, keep hitting that globe key. But the emoji key now is right up here next to the
I'm still doing it wrong. I keep hitting the globe key to get the emoji, and then I go, duh, every time.
Oh. So clearly, this is something useful for you, Rene. Automatic tab closing in Safari.
That's a really nice.
So many nerds got so anxious about this. They're like, no, my tabs. But it's not. You can choose it. It's not on by default. They're not going to take your tabs away.
Oh, but I love this idea because I actually don't want all those tabs, and I'm always shocked when I hit the tab button in my Safari on iOS, and I go, what? All those tabs they don't take a lot of memory, I'm sure, but still, I don't like that.
It's just clean it up.
Clean it up. Attachments and calendars. What's that for?
Adding
if you want to have stuff
to a calendar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good idea. So, like, if you have a meeting, you can put the meeting notes in as an attachment, and they would be right there. Yeah. To update apps in iOS 13, you open up the App Store, tap on your profile, and choose apps from the pending updates section. So they've taken, I don't know if I like this, they took the update tab out of the App Store.
Yeah, for Arcade.
I think they already do it like that on Mac, on the Mac App Store. So I could see what they're thinking is to just kind of redirect you to your profile. That's where kind of your personal things are.
But what if I don't want Arcade?
Also, Julie's Memoji is good. I'm just going to put that out there.
Julie's Clover.
It's pretty cute.
I have a cute emoji with pink hair. Kind of looks like you a little bit, Lory. He can't find it. Go ahead. Press the right button. There we go.
There it is.
Safari screenshots. When you take a screenshot in Safari, there's a new option to save it as a full page.
I love this so much.
Oh, my God, which exports the entire web page as a PDF.
Yep.
It's not on Mac yet. I'd love it on Mac just for Final Cut Pro, but it is available on iPad as well, so I've been using it there.
I don't want a screenshot. I want the page. Now I can get it.
Yep. You have to, it's particularly given that there's important stuff that you forget to screenshot or capture. And also sometimes the data that you need a year later has been removed from the internet. You need an ability to actually keep it as a PDF. I've got a huge folder of nothing but PDFs of things that I don't even know if there's any chance whatsoever that this will be here in a month, let alone a year. So that's such a good, especially on a phone where it's like the thing you need is here is a list list of all of the ways that you can get a cab in this foreign airport you know nothing about. And then, of course, as soon as you land, for some reason, you can't connect to the internet or something. Yes, this is such a big thing. I'm not installing anything until we get to the public beta stage, but I have never been so excited about putting a beta on my iPad and my iPhone before.
So many new features. This one, a lot of people have been talking about optimized battery charging. It knows if your battery's getting old, it gives you a switch that says, don't charge it up all the way. Don't charge it up all the way. This is what I do. Actually, most cars with batteries do this. My Tesla and our Bolt, it's generally not considered a good idea to charge the battery up all the way. They rotate charging. So you charge it to 80% unless you need that extra juice. And that's exactly what this switch will do. The iPhone will learn from your daily routine, so you can wait to finish charging past 80% until you have to. That's a great idea. Improvements in the HomeKit. We talked a little bit about that on iOS today. Micah Sargent was on. He's a HomeKit expert. We talked a little bit about the new iOS 13 HomeKit features, including the new camera features, which will be great.
Yeah.
Photo zoom. You can zoom in and out of your Photos tab. Zoom in and out with a pinch gesture. These are little minor ones now. Time-synced lyrics in Apple Music. We talked about that.
Yep.
Up next in Apple Music, voice memos, a new pinch to zoom in the voice memo so you can zoom in on the waveform. That's nice. That's a good thing for editing waveforms. Do not disturb while driving will activate on iOS 13 while you're using public transit. That's a good idea. Don't want to take calls in the middle of a bus ride. There's quite a few. Atmos, Dolby Atmos playback. Popular Wi-Fi networks. Your phone will detect which Wi-Fi networks are being used and let you know if one is available. I like this delete Facebook command. You can delete apps.
Does it delete Libra along with it?
That would be nice. You could swipe right on the updates page and delete directly from there, which is a great thing. Because often I see, that's still updating. I didn't want that in the first place. And that's a good place to delete it. Timer's been updated. Boy, it's a lot of stuff in here. Now, this is funny. This NFC tags, which is pretty funny. People said, you can now scan your passport using the NFC reader. That's something Apple has in the past locked out, but most other phones with NFC near-field communication readers were able to do that. iPhones will be able to read Japanese national identity cards.
Yeah.
But
that's the big deal. NFC is now way too important not to support in an API because it is really being used for border control. It's being used at kiosks. It's being used in public transportation. That's a good way for Apple to be left behind if they don't let developers get access to the NFC chip.
And if you update to Beta 2 of 13, which has just come out, did you guys get Beta 2?
Yep.
I haven't downloaded it yet.
Okay. You might like this. You can unsubscribe when you uninstall an app with a paid subscription. Oh, hallelujah. This is something that bothers me because we're always showing apps. I install a lot of apps, pay for subscriptions, and then forget about it.
Right.
So this is great.
Even if you try that 2-week period, I think a lot of people will be more likely to try out that 2-week period for something, knowing that it'll be really easy to just automatically unsubscribe if they don't like it, instead of never even subscribing in the first place because they're afraid they'll forget to unsubscribe in 2 weeks or a month or whenever a subscription ends. So it's a really great way to. It's good for everyone. It is good for developers who have subscriptions because more people will be more likely to try it out.
Yeah. So when you delete the app, it'll say, "Hey, you have an active subscription on this app. Do you think you should delete it?" Yes.
And they also added the new photography in yesterday's beta.
Oh, this is the new studio lighting.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's really nice. And I didn't even try for this. I just literally turned it on, turned it towards me, and pressed the button.
So do you move the light source around just arbitrarily, or?
No, it works the same as the previous one. It just gives you a white background instead of a black background and does a bunch of other adjustments to make it look good on those backgrounds. Oh. So I had a whole living room behind me. It just removed that completely.
Oh, that's sweet.
Can we just start calling that the Steve Jobs Walter Isaacson book cover filter and just make sure that becomes
or just the Johnny for sure.
Johnny filter.
Yeah. It really looks better to me. It looks better than the black background. It smooths it out better, so it really looks like just a nicer, cleaner image. The black background always seems a little bit kind of jarring to me, and oftentimes just because the technology, it's, there's like your hair gets cut off weird or something like that. And the white one just seems to be just better at hiding mistakes and letting your eyes sort of like agree with what it's looking at.
By the way, somebody in the chat room is pointing out that now that there's an NFC API, that LastPass can use a YubiKey through NFC on your iPhone. That's great. What were you showing us, Rene? That was
you can edit them. So you pull it, like you press a button, and just like the depth control, you can you can edit the amount of the effect. Yeah.
Oh, that's
to
really
control button focus, but you can control how much of the effect is applied.
That's in the beta. Really nice. So the rest of the world will get that either if you're brave and use the public beta, or you wait till September. Apple TV also getting an update. The TV OS will have picture-in-picture mode. So you could... Now, I figured out today why you would want that. So that you could continue to watch TV while you're playing a game on your Apple TV. How about that? Crossy Road while I got, this ball game running in the background. Nice. Speaking of Apple TV, we're hearing more about Apple's content ambitions. They didn't get J.J. Abrams' production studio. A major upset. Hollywood Reporter and Deadline are saying that the AT&T-owned Warner Media is closing a $500 million deal with Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams' production company. Bad Robot was taking bids from Amazon, Apple, Netflix. Tipsters said that Apple was close to landing the deal, but apparently Warner Media's victory came down to the breadth of what it could offer. This is according to John Fingus in writing in
It feels like, though, there was another story about Apple's Oscar ambitions and then putting like $30 million towards Oscar movies, which is a drop in the bucket.
$30 million is nothing. $30 billion maybe.
Yeah, but it feels like this is like the best of all worlds for Apple, at least, because they already have a J.J. Abrams show, and J.J. Abrams' production company makes projects for all sorts of different networks and films and companies, so they can just get the ones they want if they're willing to pay for them, and let J.J. do everything else for Warner's and other companies, Tom Cruise and whoever else he's producing stuff for.
I'm not an expert on what it costs to make a movie, but these are basically small budget movies. According to the New York Post, Apple wants to spend between $5 and $30 million on elevated movies.
On Oscar winners.
Oscar winners, yeah.
That's also a really smart investment. You can get names. You can get names that you couldn't get otherwise, because if someone who has made $100 million as an actor, if they don't have an Oscar, they still really want that Oscar. Right. And so if they have a project that no one will touch because, oh my God, she's an actor who is above the age of 30, and plus it's based on a book that was published 80 years ago, and suddenly Apple says that we will not only give you the money for that budget for that movie and approve like all of your casting for it, but we will also put $4 million into an Oscar campaign for it, which is just as important. Yeah. So that's such an interesting chess game trying to launch a content catalog. It's not just about how much for the entire Beverly Hillbillies 3 series. Great, okay, we'll take the Beverly Hillbillies. It really is. You're dealing with personalities as well as content, where you have to make sure that this person who is so who can basically keep making machines that make money for you, make sure they're happy. And sometimes it really is about buy my boat that I've been trying to sell for the past 4 years, and sometimes it is help me to get an Oscar for somebody who really deserves an Oscar.
J.J. Abrams said that Bad Robot was going to go to Warner because of the distribution, and that makes sense. That's the one thing we thought that Apple might not have a level playing field, because it sounds like $1 billion
pockets, everybody.
$1 billion pockets, y'all.
Yo,
that's a lot of people.
But maybe if you're JJ, you want it to be on a big screen, not on a little screen. Yeah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting to me to see how much coverage is popping up about Apple's content for movies and TV. That no Netflix and Hulu and Amazon they didn't have any sort of advanced, content or information popping up about, oh, guess what? They're going to spend this much money on this, at least not that we were paying attention to. And, Apple hasn't even released anything. And we're already talking about the Oscars that they're going to try to make sure get one. And it's such an interesting thing to watch play out. It's a content service that has never existed before, being Apple making this content and watching the way they're planning ahead of time for the future of it. It's definitely an interesting thing to be paying attention to right now.
It's something that nobody would have even thought possible until Amazon won for Moonlight and Manchester by the Sea, and Netflix won for Roma. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't have to, Steven Spielberg notwithstanding, you don't have to be a, big screen movie company to make, to win major awards. So I think that's Apple's benefiting a little bit from the pioneers who've gone ahead and done that. I have to wonder, now this is just me trying to stir up trouble, but JJ is already doing 2 shows for Apple, right? Mm-hmm. He's, I think he's doing at least 1 or 2. I wonder if the experience of doing that maybe made JJ think, I want to go with somebody who's not going to take the crucifixes out of the devil worshiping scene. I wonder. I mean, I don't know, but
when the bidding for your company. When the bidding,
I think that with Warner's he can make stuff for anybody, and with Apple he probably has to make stuff for Apple. I don't think they have a studio system.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, when the bidding for your production company is up to $500 million, that's Leonardo da Vinci money. That's when you get to see. That's when you get to say that. Well, you know what? You don't get to tell me that someone has to say "gosh darn it" instead of
right. Right.
It's Apple. It's so much stuff about so many aspects of this is so interesting to me, and interesting, I'm sure, to all people who've been following Apple for a while, that the ability to say that we are not going to micromanage anything about these creative people. We're not going to tell them that we're not going to make them go to Apple University and teach them how to be Apple filmmakers. We just simply have to let them do what they want to do, because otherwise they will take their very, very, very profitable brain to another company.
Yeah.
I think the guy from CW who's making all the Arrow and Flash shows, Greg, I'm going to mess up his last name, Berlinetti, he got $400 million the other day. So those deals are just falling into place right now.
It is, by the way, not an acquisition; it's a partnership. They get it, and it's not clear for how many years or how many productions. It's. I have to say, I don't think Apple lost much by not acquiring that. Do you think Apple's still in the market to make that kind of deal with some big name, like a Spielberg?
I think they're happy the way they are. I think they really want to get they don't want to make the most. I think you said this. They don't want to make the most content. Right. They want to be super selective in their content and pick just a bunch of shows they're really happy with and put those out there. But I do hope that JJ being at Warner's means they're gonna give him Justice League so we can get some good DC movies finally.
Yeah, one of the great things about streaming is that it's not based on what was the audience for the first week and the second week, and then it doesn't matter that they've already put 13 episodes in the can; they're not going to air the remaining 7. The idea that they can do a show like Doom Patrol, which is that we are guaranteeing you. Exactly, and it's so absolutely wonderfully weird, and it is so quiet,
bonkers, and it's on TV.
Yeah, exactly. And the only flip side to that is that, I'm really disappointed that One Day at a Time on Netflix is not being renewed after 3 seasons. It seems as though Netflix, for instance, decides that, okay, we've got 3 seasons, we've got enough product with this label on it. We don't have to make this into a series that goes as long as the creators want for it to happen. But the ability to simply say, guess what? You get 12 episodes. They will definitely all be produced. They will definitely all be available. So don't feel as though you have to either get the entire audience in one episode or you're canceled. And that is, again, Doom Patrol. One of my I can't think of a superhero, even movie, that I'm enjoying more than Doom Patrol.
It's like Legion for me. I don't know if you've seen Legion, but Legion and Doom Patrol are the two like riskiest, I think, on TV right now.
Yeah, it might also be
the streaming service. The on-demand streaming service existence has really benefited a lot of creative people out there, because it used to be that if you wanted to make a TV show, it had to appeal to the broadest audience. Therefore, you couldn't get weird with it. And now that, companies like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon they're just throwing some money at some stuff and seeing what sticks, and they're willing to take those risks, and they're willing to let these creative people sort of get a little weird and see what happens. And it's okay that if it doesn't, hit the top charts of the Nielsen's rating, it's okay if only, a couple million people watch it. That I think that some of the best shows that have come out at all have come out because of the ability to watch things on demand, so that you're not worried about the viewership. It's less important about how many people watched that show, and more important how many people are just subscribing to your service.
And of course, Abrams has been with Warner's TV since 2006. He did Fringe there. And according to the Hollywood Reporter, part of the issue was the Warner's CEO who was replaced. They called it a values issue. So maybe Warner's was getting some pressure from Bad Robot to replace this former CEO. They did, and maybe that was part of it. There are 3 Bad Robot deals with Apple. A Stephen King adaptation, Lisey's Story, starring Julianne Moore, Sarah Bareilles' Little Voice, and a Jennifer Garner vehicle, My Glory Was I Had Such Friends, all produced by Warner's Brothers TV. So Warner still is in the mix there. I think for Apple, $500 million, it's nice to get a brand name like this, but Variety might be a better long-term.
I'm still hoping that Jennifer Garner thing is a Secret Alias reboot. I'm going to stick with that until the first episode airs.
Yeah. Of course, Bad Robot created Alias as well.
Even if they did it like The Prisoner was technically a sequel to Secret Agent Man, but they just couldn't call Patrick McGowan by his original name. That I love it when creators do that. There's been some things in comics that have been like that, where like Steve Englehart had a character he created for Marvel that has technically also appeared in his DC books and then back in Marvel again. All he has to do is not mention the name, and we can make it a crossover. I like that kind of crazy, and I hope that this situation will create more opportunities for crazy.
Tim Cooks gave the commencement address at a little school up the road a piece from Apple Computer that called Stanford. He's not a Stanford graduate, but I suppose he probably got an honorary degree. He talked about privacy. He said, if we accept as normal and unavoidable that everything in our lives can be aggregated, sold, or even leaked in the event of a hack, then we lose so much more than data. We lose the freedom to be human. And I think that's actually very accurate. I've been reading a lot lately about the idea of like little privacy, the idea that you should be able to do some things in your life, simple things that are relatively anonymous. And as fewer and fewer things that you do, even just going down to the store to buy a pack of cigs, becomes public, it changes how we are as human beings. Everything he says, think about what's at stake. Everything you write, everything you say, every topic of curiosity, every stray thought, every impulse purchase, every moment of frustration or weakness, gripe or complaint, every secret shared in confidence. In a world without digital privacy, even if you've done nothing wrong other than think differently, you begin to censor yourself. Not entirely at first, just a little, bit by bit, to risk less, to hope less, to imagine less, to dare less. I think this is so true. He says, we deserve better. You deserve better. I think a good message to the graduates at Stanford. He also encourages them to be builders. And he mentioned Steve Jobs, of course, because Jobs gave the commencement address 14 years earlier. He said, Cook related
Everyone
the
wants to go to heaven.
Of his conviction that Jobs would recover from his cancer even as he handed the reins of Apple over to Cook. Drawing from what he learned in those dark days, Cook emphasized, your mentors may leave you unprepared, but they can't leave you. May leave you prepared, but they can't leave you ready. He called it the loneliest I've ever felt in my life. And he said eventually he realized he needed to be the best version of himself and not let those around him and their expectations dictate his life. Graduates, the fact is when your time comes, and it will, you'll never be ready. But you're not supposed to be. Find the hope in the unexpected. Find the courage in the challenge. Find your vision in the solitary road. Don't get distracted. Very nice. Very nice speech. I think he also has spoken he did Tulane last month. He spoke at Duke last year, MIT in 2017. So he's not unfamiliar with these kinds of speeches.
Yeah. And I like that. I think that a lot of the headlines that came from this commencement speech kind of hit on the, here he is talking against Google and Facebook once again. But when the speech itself was very appropriate for the event. It wasn't as though he exploited a very important and expensive day in hundreds of graduates' lives and their families to talk about Apple propaganda. It really is larger issues about particularly talking to kids who grew up with the internet and grew up with a mobile device in their pockets that wouldn't prohibit them or to share anything that they wanted to share the moment it occurred to them to share it, even if 5 minutes later it occurred to them that maybe they shouldn't have done that. So I thought that there was a lot of cool stuff in that that commencement address.
It was heavy on the philosophy and light on the
exactly
self-promotion. I think that's right.
I don't like it when you get a commencement address that is inspiring all of these wonderful graduates about the importance of tariffs in our economic structure to make sure it's like, okay, I'm $250,000 in debt, and I'm starting in my uncle's lumber yard next week, but I'll keep that in mind about making sure that the GNP of
And Project Catalyst gets a very important user, shall we say? Twitter has said, we're coming back to the Mac, and we're going to do it with Project Catalyst, Apple's formerly known as Mondegreen. No, Marzipan.
Marzipan, yeah. Montague.
Montague. Twitter says it's going to be able to do pretty much everything that it was able to do with other, on the iOS code base, and add native Mac features on top of it. The new Twitter for Mac app will use our existing iOS code base rather than being built from a separate code base. By supporting key Mac-specific behaviors on top of iOS code, we'll be able to maintain feature parity across our iOS and Mac apps with relatively low long-term maintenance costs. That's the promise of Catalyst, right? For people who have iOS.
It was amazing
apps.
to see the reaction to this, because there were a bunch of people who were like, yes, finally, we understand that Twitter doesn't want to do both, but we're finally going to get a native Twitter. And then a bunch of real veteran, gnarly, salty Apple developers going, oh, really? Oh, really? You'll have scrolling. You'll have windows in your app. If the bar were any lower, I would trip over it. Thank you, Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like how are they going to take advantage of the desktop? It'll be nice to be able to have the advantages of a windowing manager inside Twitter, where I can park a Twitter window off to the side and not have to create a browser window and then turn off the bookmarks bar, turn off the address bar, turn off all this stuff. But I hope that they decide to do something like TweetDeck, where they figure out that maybe sometimes you are going to bed at 3 a.m. and you want to post something at 9 a.m. and you're not entirely sure you'll be awake at that time. I hope that they do things that actually make it worthwhile, as opposed to another app that I have to install, another permission I have to give, as opposed to just another tab in another browser window.
Yeah. I do like TweetDeck a lot. Of course, there's still a large number of excellent Mac clients like Tweetbot and Tweet. What do you use, Rene? Anything in particular?
I use Tweetbot, but I use the multi-column functionality. So I have like the main window for my timeline, a window for my mentions, and then a window just for blog news that's going by all day.
Yeah. Lory, do you use the web, or do you see part of this is Twitter does not want you to use Twitterific, right? Because they want to control the experience fully.
Yeah, I use Twitterific, and I love their menu bar app. I think I've mentioned this multiple times to multiple people. I love a good menu bar app.
Your menu bar must be so full.
It's packed. It's ridiculous. It almost scrolls across the entire screen. But I love it. I love those little widgets. They just make everything so much nicer.
I love iStat menu, and I have every possible part of iStat menu turned on, which means it is about 6 inches across the top of the screen.
Oh, Mark Edwards would love you so much.
No, it's great. He even has weather. I use their weather, everything. That's good. I love it all in there. Andy, I guess I should ask you if you use anything for Twitter.
I normally use the basic Twitter client for basic 3 meals a day, but I use TweetDeck also in the web browser when it's something is going on. I want to keep track of lots of things at the same time, or if I want to schedule something.
Yeah, TweetDeck's very handy for that. If when I'm watching the Tonys, for instance, I'll have. Well, actually, I didn't do it for the Tonys because it wasn't live, so I didn't really.
When you're watching the Raptors.
The Raptors, shut up. I have to give you congratulations. Oh, you don't care though. You're not a sport ball.
No, I heard about it when they won.
I heard
and
about
then people were like, "Oh, Canada's going to have the world's most peaceful celebration ever." And I'm like, "Did you ever see any of our hockey championships?"
Oh my God, how did it go? It was yesterday, right?
It's like the Hunger Games. Every time we win something in Canada, it becomes like, what's that? The Purge. It becomes like the Purge for 24 hours.
Okay, don't be so modest. You still have your like fan riots, but nobody gets bankrupted because they fell off of a light stand and hit the street.
That's true.
Socialized medicine after a rumble is a very good thing.
Fair.
Yeah, I use TweetDeck everywhere just because it's in my browser. It's easy to do, and I love being able to customize the columns for news stories when we're covering an Apple event or a keynote from Google or something. Having that extra column running, and I love live update. I guess everybody does live update now.
They can't. I mean, the new APIs made it so that Tweetbot and Twitter can't do live updates, and I forget notifications either.
Oh, that's terrible. But Twitter kept it for themselves because TweetDeck does.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Those guys can't, though. Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess that's what
everyone
you would start talking about is whether or not Twitter has a monopoly or an antitrust when they start telling people that they can't do their... they can't, like other people can't make third-party clients that do the things that they do. I mean, isn't that kind of the same thing as people claiming that Apple has a monopoly because they want to keep the App Store the way they want it to be?
It's pretty funny that lately, not only does the president, but pretty much every government agency and every company in America makes announcements now on Twitter. That's become the place to put your press releases.
People will learn what's happened to them in their lives on Twitter, not through direct communication. I was fired. Oh, I was hired. Yeah. Oh, I won this. Oh, I lost this.
So weird.
Oh no, I think it's even funnier that oftentimes you have government agencies talking to each other via Twitter. Right. Where you have Attorney General saying
the Pentagon says, "No way, we're doing that." Yeah.
My God. I didn't think I would have to tweet this, but here is the law basicn't saying that the thing that the president thinks he can do legally, he can't do legally.
It's amazing.
Didn't the Border Control basically tweet out that we didn't know we weren't aware that the White House was going to tell everybody about our secret operation to round people up next week?
Oh man. Let's take a little break. We'll come back with our picks of the week. Would you like to do that? I got a pick for you right now. We did it the other day when we were coming home from Las Vegas. It was so great. There was a long line at the airport, really long line at the security. Lisa and I looked at each other and said, "Oh no, we're going to be late." And then we went, "Oh, wait a minute. We have Clear." Clear is the best way to go through airport security. Use your irises or your fingerprints instead of traditional ID documents. The Clear ambassador standing at the kiosks will help you go through it the first time, and you'll get through security so quickly. It's just awesome. In fact, Clear now is at major ballparks and concert venues, too. At the Oakland Coliseum, I can use Clear to get into the Warriors games. Oh, never mind. Clear uses, I guess they'll have it at the new stadium, though, won't they? Clear gets you through security with the tap of a finger so you can get to your gate faster, reduce pre-flight stress, no physical ID card needed. You're the best ID out there because they've got your irises and here's all the airports that Clear supports, all the concert venues. It's very easy to sign up. The way we did it, we signed up online, and then you go to the Clear kiosk the next time you're there. The Clear ambassador helps you finish the process. They scan your irises, they scan your fingerprints, and it's really actually kind of a fun process. And then you're immediately able to use Clear that very first time. I love it, too, that there's a family plan. So you can have up to 3 adult family members at a discounted rate. So Lisa's on my account. And kids under 18 are free. So Michael is absolutely free. Clear now is at 50-plus airports and stadia across the country, with more being added every day. It is just great. Right now, you can get your first 2 months free at clearme.com/MacBreak. Use the promo code MacBreak. CLEARME.com/MacBreak. Promo code MacBreak for your free 2 months of Clear. If you travel a lot or you go to concerts, once you use Clear, you will never want to go back. ClearMe.com/MacBreak. Don't forget the offer code MacBreak. That's how you let them know you heard it here, and we appreciate that. And thank you, Clear, for speeding up our airport access. It's so fantastic. ClearMe.com/MacBreak. Promo code MacBreak. And Ihnatko, time for a pick of the week.
My pick this week is pretty cool. This is not the pick. This is my numeric keypad from my old Apple adjustable keyboard, which I still really, really like. I still think it's really, really cool. Unfortunately, it's not really, really useful because it uses the Apple desktop bus. However, someone on Twitter, whose name I unfortunately did not record, set me wise to this. This is called the ADB USB Wombat. From the company Big Mess of Wires. And it is just simply that. It is an Apple desktop bus to USB converter, and it'll work either way. So if you have like a favorite old Apple desktop bus keyboard, it will allow you to use it with any machine, Mac, PC, Linux that uses USB. If you've got a vintage Mac, it's very easy to find a classic Mac at a flea market. It's not so easy to find the ADB keyboard you need or the ADB mouse you need. With this one, you can just plug in a USB hub and use whatever USB peripherals that you want to use with it. And it really is beautifully done. This is the device itself is. That was my mistake. Too excited.
Just knock your microphone over.
I got too excited. So the device itself is $50. If your beautiful laser cut case that you assign yourself is $10 more. But it's not just some sort of breadboarded sort of thing that works off of an Arduino or whatever. It is just you simply plug it in. You don't need drivers. You don't need to adjust firmware. As far as whatever computer you're plugging this into is concerned, it is the keyboard, it is the mouse, it is the USB device that it wants to see. So it's a self-powered, doesn't require external power. I'm really, really happy with it. Again, particularly because I stopped being a real collector of computers when I realized how much money I was spending a month to store my collection. But I do have a couple of old Macs that I like to kick around with, and it just takes all the pain in the butt out of using these things. On top of all that, Big Mess of Wires also has other stuff that will help you out if you're using classic Macs, including a floppy drive emulator that lets you stick in an SD card. So you'll be able to boot off of SD. You'll be able to download like classic Mac software off of like archive software sites, and then just run everything you want off of what would have been an unfathomably immense SCSI drive back in the day. But of course, it's just the 16 gig SD card you took out of your camera 3 years ago when you upgraded to 32 and 64 gigs. So again, high recommendation. It really is just plug and play. It just works. It is as good as I would have hoped a device like this to work.
Nice. Great Twitter conversation you had with a fellow who said, my mom uses the iPod Touch to control an implanted medical device.
Yeah, that was Rene.
Oh, yeah, Rene had that. Okay, yeah. You weighed in, I guess.
To both of us, and I added in. Yeah. Isn't it? And I had to reply that every time I've seen like an external controller for an implanted device, it's usually your basic 2-line back illuminated LCD and a couple of clicky buttons. It's so cool that someone who relies on this for their life gets to interact with it with a real cool, easy to use, friendly device that also plays movies.
Yeah. The Bippy tweeted this, a maker of the Horns Down stickers in the App Store, programmer, and Texas A&M fan apparently. But that's really cool.
Yeah.
Very really interesting use actually of a
you forget that There's the stuff that 95% of the people use a certain Apple product for, but within that 5%, there are 1,000 different individual cases that are shocking and surprising and really make you happy.
We had the other day somebody in from Oracle. He said what you missed in that conversation was how many people use embedded iPod touches in sleds. He apparently makes the software for Oracle Mobility software in stores for inventory. It's very, very popular in hospitals. And he said one of the reasons that Apple can't change the form factor is because these sleds that they embed them in, they are very expensive. And so it has to fit in. If you can get a new one, but it's got to fit exactly in the place the old one did.
It's fascinating. Every time I've gotten the tour of like a facility at NASA or a government facility or like an industrial facility, I'll see like, oh wow, here is 5 of the new $10,000, $20,000 Mac Pros, and here's a custom huge display they made for it. And then, wow, there's a Commodore 64 like over there. And what's that for? Well, that monitors and controls a valve system. It was installed in 1982, and it continues to work, but it would cost way too much money to take it out and replace it with a system that would only work just as well. So we have a closet full of Commodore 64s we buy on eBay just to control this valve. It's like, wow. Mind blown.
Lory Gill, pick of the week.
So I went camping this weekend, and it reminded me that I whipped out my BioLite camp stove.
Do you use that? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this thing is a great little
like a joke.
Go-getter.
No. This is the stove that generates USB power for your phone?
Yeah, it's pretty great. So what's great about it is that you don't have to, have a big old, like a propane stove or something like that if you want to cook something small or if you want to heat up. I use it for heating up hot water so that I can either wash dishes or for making coffee. Yeah. And that little canister really gets hot. And so it really gives you the flame that you need. It's all condensed in one tiny little spot. And while you're at it, you can charge it. It's not much. It's a little, it's not like a 3-watt charge or something like that. But, if you're almost out of energy on your phone and you kind of just need to juice it up for a minute, you just plug right in and it gives you little stuff. I love the BioLite. It's a fun little thing.
Do you have the Camp Stove 2 or the original?
I do. That's the bundle. I have the bundle, the Camp Stove 2. Yeah.
The bundle's cool. Yeah. I didn't realize you could do so many things with it. This is really very neat. Yeah.
Yeah. And it really does work. It's no joke. The only thing that I'm not in love with is how small that grill is.
Grill, yeah.
You can't really put a pot or a pan on it. You can cook stuff directly on it, which gets messy, or you can have like small canisters off to the sides, like if you're going to cook some beans or something like that, right in the can.
Right.
But when it comes to using like a big pot or pan, it just doesn't fit on that stove.
Right. Can you fit a fish on it? That's all I care about.
A small one, yeah.
I get my trout on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use just the local wood just lying around, or do you bring pellets?
Yeah,
with you?
because you can't. Yeah, you could buy the pellets, but I don't. And you're not using entire pieces of wood, so I just grab little trees, twigs and things that have fallen on the ground, and you just kind of start throwing them in there, and they catch on each other and they get hot. There's a fan underneath it that like blows it keeps the air moving so that the fire will get hotter faster. Nice. So it's this condensed little machine of heat that you don't have to use chemicals for. You don't have to use propane or any of that kind of stuff. It's all natural. And a portion of the proceeds go to they have a program where they're trying to bring electricity and cleaner cooking to sub-Saharan Africa. So, they're also trying to do some good while they're selling us fun gadgets that we can use.
This would be so great to have. I think you put this in your survival kit for when the power grid goes out for 5 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all you do is heat up some, just to have a fire, and then you can, have a little bit of electricity.
You can have food for one person.
Well, if all it does is give you enough power to be able to make a phone call to tell people where the bear left you, that's definitely worth it. It doesn't have to power a TV.
Right.
Right.
The Camp Stove 2 bundle with all of those doohickeys is $200, and you can get We actually have a review of the BioLite 1, I think. Father Robert did a little cookout on the lawn out here. He really liked it. I think this is, I have to put together. I'm going to put together a kit for the end times because I feel like I don't know. I mean,
if nothing else, being able to boil water.
Yeah.
It's a great, and again, like I said, like you don't need anything but a little bit of twigs and stuff, and you can create a really hot fire with just the stuff that you'd find out in your front yard.
Yeah.
We're overdue for another Carrington event, so yeah, who's going to be laughing then? It's
the BioLite camp stove from BioLiteEnergy.com, BIOLITE. And I didn't give out the Wombat information either, actually, for you, Andy. I should give that out for people who want it from mainly because I love the URL, bigmesowires.com. Big Meso Wire. They must sell other great stuff besides the USB Wombat.
Again, they're the entire site is worth taking a look at. And I want to assure you again, the thing that they will send you is not a big Meso Wires. I believe they're just being self-deprecating there. It is actually a very nicely produced custom board.
I think I want to buy the floppy EMU disk emulator for vintage Apple II, Macintosh, and Lisa. That's hysterical.
Yeah, I bought the floppy. I bought the Wombat as soon as I heard about it because I knew it would change my life in a positive way.
Yeah.
But I think the next thing is going to be the EMU because I'm so glad that they're doing this work that makes it's you really have to love a classic Mac in order to do everything you have to do to actually make it work and do stuff other than look pretty on a shelf. But if you can simply buy an adapter that will let you use your USB keyboard with it. And you can also buy another adapter that will let you use SD cards with it. That's all you got to worry about now is the Flyback transformer carboning out on you, and that's it. So they're really letting people in on the fun of classic Macs now. I love this.
I think we have a show title. All you have to worry about is the Flyback transformer carboning out on you. Rene, Ritchie, how's your Flyback transformer?
Autobots transform and roll out. I think it's fully enabled. I had a completely different pick of the week, but I'm going to save that for next week because Lory reminded us at the beginning of the show that it was episode 666.
Oh.
So in honor of that, I wanted to pick Lucifer season 4 now on Netflix.
Is this a good show? Because I'm so tempted because it looks cool. It's based on Neil Gaiman's Lucifer character from the Sandman comic book series, which was brilliant. The first season is really good. The second season is really good. The third season, they gave them 22 episodes, which I think was like 20, maybe like 15 episodes too many because previously they'd had these short, tight seasons. But the Netflix season goes back to that. So basically, Lucifer is Lucifer Morningstar, the fallen angel who was cast down into hell, but then decides he's had enough of that. He doesn't think he deserves his father's punishment. He's going to go on vacation to Los Angeles. And so he renounces hell, leaves it unguarded, goes to Los Angeles and ends up becoming the partner to a detective. Oh, great.
Where he finds life boring and it's so well done. He literally like, this is all so boring. I want to get back to real excitement. And it's just every episode he goes to therapy, and every lesson the therapist tells him he misunderstands as being what he wants and not what he needs.
Well, he's the devil, of course.
But he doesn't punish people. That's all. Like the whole thing that's interesting about it is that he thinks he gets blamed for everything bad that happens to us, and he feels just as laid upon as the rest of us. So it's fun watching him try to come to terms with humanity every season.
I got another show I got to watch. All right, Lucifer season 4 is out. And this was episode 666 of MacBreak Weekly.
And in that scene, you see Eve, who's come to meet him there because he was her first boyfriend, and she just wants to get things back the way they were.
Oh, yeah. He told her about the apple, and
Yep. She says it wasn't an apple; it was more like a banana. But I'm not going to go there on public TV.
Actually, that reminds me of Neil Stephenson's new book, which I just finished, called Fall or Dodge in Hell. And there is a little bit of a devilish twist to it all, including an apple and a worm and Adam and Eve. So that was actually quite a good book. If you have time for 888 pages, I recommend that. We are out of time, though, for this show. Rene Ritchie and Lory Giller at imore.com. Rene does the Vector podcast there, a little project. He's got a little small budget project he's got going there, imore.com/Vector. Lory Gill is managing editor of All of the Above. She's also a rock and roll star with their band Sick Burn at Alpaholic on the Twitter. And Ihnatko, when are you going to be on WGBH this week?
I did a double header last week, so I'm taking the week off. I believe next week will be on Wednesday, probably at the Boston Public Library again. Check out my Twitter. That's usually where I post the time and date. And
your Twitter is at IHNATKO. And we remember how to spell that by starting the first three letters. I have no idea how to spell the rest of the name.
Yes.
I have no atco. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, around about 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. If you want to stop by, or is it 17? I guess is it 1700? No, it's 1800 UTC. If you want to stop by, you can watch it or listen to it live at our website, twit.tv/live. There's a variety of streams there. If you are streaming it live, you should absolutely stream the chat room live, irc.twit.tv. Join the folks who are all watching live. And right now we're working hard to think of show titles. That's part of the responsibility of the chat room. They come up with some good ones, I got to say. You can also get on-demand versions of every episode we do at our website, twit.tv/mbw, or subscribe. Your favorite podcatcher will certainly have MacBreak Weekly, and if you subscribe, you'll have it in plenty of time for your Wednesday morning commute. You can also ask your favorite voice assistant to play MacBreak Weekly. Usually it'll play the most recent episode of the show. But you never know. That's the fun thing about voice assistants. Almost anything can happen. Thanks for joining us again. Alex Lindsay makes his triumphant return next week. We'll have a big panel, 5 people. Should be interesting. I've got to ask him what his plans are with the Mac Pro. So that's next week on MacBreak Weekly. Meanwhile, for the rest of you, time to get back to work because break time is over. See you later.